Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Leveraging Lessons from the Past webinar on Autopsy Lab Lean Transformation. This is Jenna Peterson, an education specialist for Mayo Clinic Laboratories. Our presenters today are Fazi Amiramati, a senior principal systems engineer in the Department of Laboratory Medicine and Pathology, and Christina Peters, supervisor in the Autopsy Lab, both at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. A couple of things to remind everyone of before we begin today. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the program. You can submit questions online via the Q&A icon in Zoom. Please only use the chat function for any technical issues. And also, today's program is being recorded and will be posted to our website in a few weeks. And now I'll turn things over to our presenters.
Good morning. My name is Fazi Amiramati, and I'm system engineer. And I'm privileged to co-present this presentation with Christina. She's an excellent supervisor and a good model for servant leader. Can we go to the next one?
Yes.
And then the disclosures here is that we don't have any conflict of interest or financial relationship to discuss. Now, when we started this, by the way, before I go through the presentation, I want to talk briefly about my role. I'm a system engineer with a in industrial engineering, and we have similar engineers like me with different degrees like industrial engineer, mechanical engineer, or electrical engineers, and also background from different industries, from GE, IBM, and other industries, Hormel and other industries also. And our team, we have 10 or 11 engineers that our job is to work with our divisions. So we have assigned one engineer to each division to work closely with the supervisors, assistant supervisors, our operations managers, and our quality specialists to work on challenges or actually opportunities that we have for improvement. And our goal is to implement Lean and Six Sigma, use those tools in order to improve our processes. What we did at Autopsy was at the end of 2015. This was the situation that we had at that time. Right now, Dr. Reichard and Dr. Quinton are co-director of the lab directors. And at that time, Dr. Reichard was the director for our autopsy lab. And this was the situation that we had at that time. We had top-down management, so it was like a command and control. Everything was coming from our pathologists, from lab directors, and also the operations managers. And it was like, this is what we do, and this is how we are going to do it. Also, we didn't have, at that time, we didn't have any strategies, what we are going to do this year, what are our plans for the future, and so on. And most of the time, the job for the supervisor and also assistant supervisor was firefighting. Every day we had the new problem or problems, and then we had to solve those problems immediately in order to do the cases that we had at that time. Also, we didn't have good communication among our team members and also operations managers and supervisors and so on. Sometimes we had cases that situations that we were missing the ordering a test or collecting some tissues and so on. So we had the miscommunication during the day because of we didn't have a formal communication system. Also, we had problem with the quality of the photos that we were taking at that time. So this was, we take the photos for education and also for legal needs that we have, because sometimes our pathologists, they have to go to court, testify, and talk about the cases that we had. Other problems that we had two suites, suites, and most of the time we were running out of supplies. And these are just major problems or issues that we had, but the other issues that we had during the day, every time that we were going through the cases that we had to finish for the day. Next slide, please. The other issues that we had is that the workload for the conferences that we had too many cases for the conference. Our turnaround time was too long. One of the clients that we have or the customers that we have, they are funeral homes, so we were releasing the body late and they wanted to have a faster service. Or in order to train new trainers, new technologies, the training time was too long. It was close to 90 days for one technologies to become proficient in order to do some of the tasks that we needed to do during the autopsy. And during each day, because of the volume of the cases that we had, sometimes it was difficult for our technologists to take a break between the cases or during the cases, and that one created unhappy technologists. And then the other challenge that we had was that because we had a really busy schedule, it was hard to approve the PTOs for our staff and our team members. And as a result of all these challenges that we had unhappy pathologists, technologists, and also our customers and clients that we had. At the same time, we were seeing that the volume was increasing. And since from 2012, we had 487 cases, but then gradually we were seeing that by 2015 and 2016, our volumes were higher, much higher than before. So we had only 2 autopsy suites, and we needed to do something in order to manage the volume increase that we had, the growth that we had for our volumes. We needed to do something in order to be able to meet that volume increase. So in order to solve those problems, we came up with the lean transformation, and we needed to go through that journey. And again, as part of my job and other engineers that we have, is that implementation of lean tools and concepts in order to eliminate waste throughout the system that we have. So these are some of the goals that we had with that transformation, that we wanted to change our culture for our leaders. Instead of a top-down system, we wanted to have a servant leader. We wanted to have a lead with humility. We want to be sure that they are supportive. Our pathologist, our lab director, supporting our staff. Their job is to remove the obstacle for us. And also we wanted to be sure that our staff are engaged. Current system that we had at that time was that the technologies always, they were going to the supervisors and assistant supervisors with their problems, and they were looking for answers from them. Our goal was to create engagement, and so they are going to come up with recognize the issues and come up with the issues and they come up with the problems. And we wanted to change the role of our supervisors from firefighting and providing solution to coaches and mentors for our staff, and are changing the role of our frontline staff to problem solving, our technologies to solve the problems, learn how to recognize the problems, and we provide training so they can do their problem solving and come up with the solution. And then instead of being firefighting every day, we were doing firefighting. In order to eliminate that one, we wanted to be proactive, look ahead, and also learn from what happened yesterday to prevent the things that the same things that are going to happen next day or today or tomorrow. So we want to be that we are proactive and we are preventing problems from happening in the future. And in order to do it, again, we needed to teach our staff how to do problem solving, and how to use PDSA, plan, do, study, and adjust. So defining the problem, planning for it, and then implementing that plan and seeing what's the result, study, and then what did we learn from that study? Did we get the results that we wanted to get, or did we need to make adjustment? And then if it's working, then let's update our SOPs and also standards and move to the next problem. And also the thing that we wanted to do was creating the culture of uh, openness. So people or staff technologists, they could bring their problems and without any hesitations. So they know that, oh, this error happened today, and then we can help them to solve those problems and as a team and try to remove the obstacles for them. So this was really big change that we noticed throughout our journey. That at the beginning, people they were hesitating, they had hesitations in order to bring up their changes, but later it was just normal activity. Oh, I made this mistake, and I share it with others to know it and try to prevent it from happening. Next one. So in order to achieve those goals, we created a timeline. So we are not showing it here, but we create a plan that shows that what are the things that we are going to do by which day, and who's responsible, and what are the goals and accomplishments that we want to have. So we had, like, for the first quarter in 2016, second, third, and so on, we had an action plan in order to go through this journey. And then once we had that one, we provided that kind of information to our pathologists that they were supporting Autopsy Lab. And everyone was supportive. And then we talked about our journey. And then the other thing we did is that we took our lab director, Dr. Reichardt, supervisor, assistant supervisor, and also our operations manager to go to La Crosse, which is one of our satellite in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And also we went to Vonona Health. This is another organization, which is close to Rochester, Minnesota, 40 miles from here, but they are more advanced than us in lean at that time. And so that was really eye-opening for us to go to see their Obeya room and how they have done strategy, how they are deploying their strategies, actions, and goals and the targets that they have from top level to the middle level of the organization and to the front line. So that was very good educational and learning process for us. Also, we watched a video by TEDACare, which is another organization in Wisconsin, and they are good at the lean management system or lean transformation. So we shared that video with our pathologists that they are supporting autopsy. So that was another good learning process for us and for our leaders. And in order to introduce our staff technologists to lean concepts, we did the lean introduction to lean, and we covered 8 types of waste. We had a 4-hour hands-on simulation that we used. We call it Acme Lab. And this is a process that we go through. We are assuming that lab, the cases are coming. This is a histology lab. The cases are coming for us. The cases are pennies that we were using. They go through the they go through the histology, embedding, and we do staining and then quality, and then we are done. So we use that simulation that we have in order to teach our staff and technologies what are the ways that we have in our system, and how can we improve our processes going from batch system to one piece flow. And then we did it by using A3 thinking. the logic that we use in our A3 thinking is that we follow the make process, define the problem, measure it, measure our base, then we analyze, and then we, based on the root cause that we do, we identify the interventions, improve, and finally we implement the interventions, and then we go through the control phase. So we went through those phases within 4 hours of education that we had. Next slide, please. So once we went through that education, then thing that we did was we created we mapped our process Autopsy Lab, and you can see in that picture, which is not clear, but this was the place that when the case comes or the body comes into our system, what are the things that they are happening? These boxes are showing that the activities, how long does it take, how many stages we have, how long does it take, and the red we call it proofs, but these are starbursts that we have. These are the problems or issues that we are facing in each activity. So we capture those opportunities as our list of action items, and we created the implementation plan. So the table that you see at the bottom of the picture shows that these are at the time we had like 85, we identified 85 different opportunities for improvement. So these are the things that they are causing problems, they are creating challenges, firefighting for us during the day. So the goal was to work on those and eliminate them forever. Okay. The other thing that we did during that phase in 2016 and also later 2017, 19, and 20, and so on, we created the book clubs. And our technologists, operations managers, supervisors, and assistant supervisors, they participated in the book clubs that we had. The first one was On the Mend, and we went through this one. Again, this is from Dr. Toussaint, and at that time he was working for TEDACare, and then Beyond Hero, again, that one is by through that TEDACare also. We went through these two books, and later another book that we have here, The Ideal Team Player, that Christina can talk about that one more. But for the first two books, it was like a culture change for us too. At that time, when we started going through the book, the culture was that this is not my problem. This is a problem that the supervisor has to solve. Or the finger pointing and saying that, oh, this person does this, our leadership are doing this. And then as we went through these, the first book was like, how can the culture changed? And we became like questioning us, how can we work differently? How can we behave differently? How can I help my team members? How can I help my pathologists in order to have a better day and make it easier for them to go through these cases, daily cases that we have. So the culture changed. And then when we went through that Beyond Heroes, that's another book, really good book that we used. And the learning was that they listed all the challenges that we were going to go and see throughout our lean journey. We saw those challenges in that book. And we didn't read that book once. We did it two times or three times after that, because new technologies, and every time that we read that book, we came up with the new ideas, and we could relate our situation to some of the points that they were in that book. I don't know, Christina, do you want to talk about the third book also?
Yeah, so Fozzie is correct. Every couple years, we reread the Beyond Heroes. Basically, we do a chapter, and then the text do a reflection. We discuss it very openly at our staff meetings, and we create a list of things that we can improve upon, things that we would like to add. into the laboratory. He's absolutely correct that the conversation shifted with the team. At the beginning, it was very, these people need to be doing this because it's making my job difficult. And then toward the end of the book, it became, okay, this is happening. What's within our control to do so to mitigate the situations that we're seeing. So it was definitely a mindset and perception shift by the team, which was really, really cool to watch. But definitely, I mean, it took some time, right? Culture change is not easy and it's not quick. The ideal team player was added a few years back. Basically, the concepts of the book, it's a story about a construction company that is trying to figure out retention of people or how to get the best people. And they come up with 3 concepts for the ideal team player, and it is hungry, humble, and smart. So somebody that's hungry, they want to learn, they want to be engaged, they want to grow. Humble, they recognize they can't do it all on their own, that they need other people, that other people aren't perfect. And then smart, they want to work smart, efficiently with good quality. And so that's really what the team read. And then we kind of did reflections on that as well, so that we could reflect on ourselves and kind of how we meshed up in there, and then maybe things that we needed to work on.
Thank you. And then one of the things that we did in our lean journey was to go through the strategic planning, and we defined our mission and vision. Mission means who we are and why do we exist. And then our vision is that where do we want to go? So that was we went through the process. As we were going through this defining our mission and vision, can we go to the next slide? As part of defining those vision and mission, we created our true north. So these are the ultimate goal that we have. This is like our promises to our customers, our clients, and also our staff and our stakeholders. So for our customers, we define that higher quality, faster delivery, affordable price, and professionalism, and other key factors that we need to consider. And for stakeholders, financial stewardship, and our values, we have rich ties that we follow. We have primary values, and then we have rich ties, which is respect, integrity, compassion, healing, teamwork, innovation, excellence, and stewardships. And then also our promises to our staff is that respect, rewarding career, fair and equitable pension, and so on. So we wanted to have a fair and just culture. That means openness, so people, they can bring their ideas without any hesitations or being worried to the table and talk about. Next slide, please. And then as part of our continuous improvement, and in order to improve our communication, we started our huddle board. This is a morning huddle that the pathologists and the technologists and also the other agencies like law enforcement and other people that they are involved with the case, they come to the meeting, and we talk about how many cases we have, what are the things that we need to do for each case, and so on. So the left side was the beginning of that board. We didn't have that board before. So that was the communication. And later, as through the process, we created the improved gradually. And the right one is the latest one that we have. It's just we follow this board, and we see how many cases we have, what are the things that we need to do, tissue collection, test ordering, and how many techs we have, who is in charge of that meeting, and so on. So this is the way that we are running our daily huddle in the morning. And then lab also has a huddle in the afternoon, which is 3 o'clock. And that's the part that they bring up their challenges, daily challenges, and they offer their ideas for making improvements. Next one, please. And this is the daily huddle that they do at the lab level. And again, you to the right side at the top, you see that PDSA, just do it. these are the opportunities that our team members identified, so we can work on those and improve our processes. And I think I took too much time of from the presentation. Sorry, Christina. So
You
I
are
will,
fine.
yeah, I will stop here. Thank you.
You're fine. I talk fast, so right. So this board that you're seeing right now is the one that we started with. When COVID hit, things got a little interesting because we couldn't gather the way that we were used to gathering. So we did have to make some of them digital, which are the ones that I'll be sharing now. So this main board that Fozzie originally shared that had the boards next to each other, that one is in our main space, and that one is utilized during what we call morning report, which is that case discussion, and that includes the consultant that's on for the day, PAs, interns, trainees, our residents, fellows, that kind of thing. So that's mainly for their information. It's for the techs as well, but a lot of information is out in the main conference space where they are, so they can easily see it. For the autopsy techs, after that first huddle is done, there's a second huddle right away in that same space that's tech specific. So as you can see on here, we've got their schedule down at the bottom. The little ornament look things are for their lunches. So if there's a lunch schedule, you would see initials under the times that techs need to go to lunch. There's different things up here that are specific to them and their day. So we have a little onus board, meaning ancillary tasks that need to get done, so people can claim those. Scheduling things for myself and my assistant supervisor, it's our schedule. And all of the information is then up on a 72-inch monitor that's in the hallway in the back. So they can see all of this. It updates real time and just allows them to understand what's needed for their day and kind of what the day is going to look like. Our afternoon huddles, they are 15 minutes from 3:45 to 4. We purposely made them that way because the first techs leave for the day at 4 o'clock. So the goal was to get a structured and short huddle. And basically when we get together every afternoon, sometimes it's too busy and we can't, but for the most part, every afternoon we'll get together and we'll talk about safety concerns. We do Kamishibai on our SOPs, which is basically like a direct observation of each other following SOPs. And that's really to find, is somebody doing something that's really efficient? Are SOPs really reflective of the process? Are there questions in the process that we're doing? So that's what that is. So there's safety concerns. We discuss all of our events. So those are called Apaches. It's the type of form that we fill out digitally. So basically, it was probably 2 to 3 years after we started this culture shift that we were finally able to get to a place with the team where we could have events up on a board. They recognize that they're not punitive. They're incredibly supportive of each other. So all of these get brought forward. And then sometimes we'll discuss like, oh, we're seeing this a lot lately. Let's start looking at how many times this is happening, or why do we think this one thing is happening? As an example, we had a situation with a tech where there was an event in the suite and the first response from the tech was like, oh yeah, I need to watch that next time. And then a couple of her colleagues said, well, how are you holding your scalpel when you're doing this? And what they ended up finding through that open discussion was that the angle of the blade just needed to be tweaked a little bit. So it was a learning opportunity. And that's what events are. They're an opportunity for us to share with each other what we know, what we've learned, what we're struggling with, and what we can fix. We also talk about our PDSAs, our Just Do It's, which also kind of becomes a reminder board. So these are just ideas that people bring forward. And then, of course, any other notes or comments and follow up. So this is kind of how the afternoon board is structured. And this board is up all week. And then at the bottom, you can see they sign off on it to make sure everyone's aware of everything on the board. One of the projects that was worked on during the initial lean transformation that involved PAs and techs was basically the photography. So on the left-hand side, you'll see what we were using. So there were a lot of different size cones depending on the tissue. And it was an issue because we didn't have consistent or as high a quality as we could have for our photographs that are used in publications for education, if it's a consented case, and then of course, like Fozzie mentioned, legal cases that go to court. So on the right-hand side, what you'll see is the new setup. So we worked with our engineering team and we had PAs review photographs. And so all of our photos are extremely consistent. We 5S'd each autopsy suite. So we have 2 autopsy suites, and basically for each room, nothing was really in the same spot. So everything was organized and labeled, as you can see in the image. So they are mirror images of each other, which is great for training. So if you have a resident that's only for a month, it doesn't matter what room they're in, they know where to find something. Same with training technologists as well. Job instruction was done specifically for the suites, and that actually was able to shorten our training time from 90 days down to that 27 days, which is huge because autopsy is obviously a huge part of what we do, but it's also a very physically intense role, and it's a physically intense process. So it makes it really worthwhile to get technologists up to speed sooner rather than later, but in a way that provides good quality. So we're not sacrificing quality just to get someone trained. So we have suggestion cards, which are the plan, do, study, adjust, and the just do it. So one of the ones that was a really big struggle was lunches. So people either weren't taking lunches, they were taking them really late. That's a really big issue. And so there was an entire project around lunches. And so now there's a lunch schedule that gets created depending on how many cases we have. And the techs are able to rotate seamlessly in and out of the room. So cases can continue forward throughout the whole day without any breaks, which is fantastic. And then the grossing conference. So we had one of our grossing conferences had a high volume. And so we were able to work with the consultants in that work group to create 2 days rather than just one for these conferences. So it kind of evened the cases out and alleviated that workload a little bit. So during our transformation, thus far, we've completed over 85 improvement opportunities that were identified from that original value stream mapping. We've redistributed tasks to streamline and reduce the delay of procedures. So we've made it much more efficient. And I would even say, since we've standardized and streamlined, it's much higher quality than they used to be as well. And now everything is done in a shorter amount of time. And then discretionary work, so that teamwork, people feeling like they're involved in decisions, engaged, went from 50% to 100% in a year, which is huge. So our volumes look a little wonky because we're kind of recovering from COVID now, but they continue to increase. So since 2012, you can see that 487. Last year, we had 918 cases. But so is our productivity. So you can see even in the height of COVID, in the same space and with the same, I think we added 1 FTE during the entirety of COVID. But you can see that in 2016, had COVID hit and we were jumping to over 100 cases per tech rather than 79, we would have had a much bigger struggle. So while COVID was difficult because open communication with each other, because of the culture of this team, while it was stressful and hard, it didn't break this group by any means. Annual volume versus overtime usage. So I always find this to be the most interesting. So this is unexpected overtime. So basically in 2016, if we had 6 cases in a day with our 2 suites, we would have had over techs that should have been leaving at 5 would probably leave at 6:30, 7 o'clock. So you can see that our volumes have increased. Last year, we just had 8 hours of unexpected overtime, whereas the same volumes in 2016 would have had a lot more. So just some other kind of fun facts, I guess. Our average time per case was 3 hours and 46 minutes when we started. It's now an hour and 44 minutes with better quality. So it's created a lot more opportunity to grow in the team, even in the same amount of space. Prior, it would have been 4 cases without overtime, and now we can do 8 to 10. And then a lower attrition rate. So we normally have about 1 FTE per year that we're turning around. And then one of the techs allowed me to share this with people. So basically just that open discussion in the afternoon huddle about mistakes, how it was made, why, and how we can fix it. And then the fact that if they have new ideas, their coworkers and management are open to hearing what they are. And I think it creates a situation where they really feel like they have a voice that's heard. So we've done a lot of posters. This is just a list of posters. We've got a few more coming shortly. We've got about 4 gold projects we're working on currently that will also be posters and will be able to be published. And then these are our Quality Fellows, Quality Academy projects. So at Mayo Clinic, there's different levels of these type of projects, and they're normally more involved. They have a lot of different areas. And gold is normally aim for gold. So if anyone says, can this be a project? We normally aim for the highest one that we can. And then as part of this transformation, Autopsy actually earned the Mayo Clinic Excellence Through Teamwork Award in 2017, which was pretty awesome for the group. This is Dr. Farouja's visit on October 5th. This was Fozzie's help in creating. So I think sometimes I feel like we're just like, I'm in this culture every day. This is what our culture is. And so sometimes I forget this isn't everywhere. So thanks to Fozzie, we can help spread the word on how good this is for the groups. So what's in the future, right? So quality and lean and all of these kind of things are always things that you want to continue forward in and you want to get better in. I'm definitely not an expert. The supervisor that started all of this still participates in different things and is helping move forward the DLMP management system. So hopefully this culture will spread out to all of our DLMP areas. But for us, we continue to value stream map. So it's a huge tool that we use when we've kind of got a complex process and we're just not really sure where to start. We map it out and it gives us a nice list that we can then maybe, sort by some of those quick ones and then tackle the harder stuff as we go forward. We do a skills matrix with the autopsy team. So basically, we use pizza pie, and it's a visual for the team to see like when was the last time they did a certain skill, and then it allows us to track where somebody's at on that. So have they done one? Could they teach one? Have they not done it for 6 months? Then maybe we need to encourage that. And then again, that Kamishi by that review of SOPs. We are on our 2nd round and we always find something that needs to be updated, which is fantastic. Team is super engaged in it. They're just great. And then we created some teams for specialty tasks. So for instance, we have a training team. So we're branching out on that JI continuum to look at like different routines that we can include that in. The techs can join what they want. So we have probably 3 or 4 different like specialty teams, and then they meet on a regular basis. They take their minutes. I can review that if needed, or I can attend a meeting. But really, they're the ones that lead and then information to management. And it comes that mentoring and coaching. So if they're struggling, we can help them through that. And then A3s. So during our one-on-ones, we're doing personal A3s. It's a learning experience for me as well. So I feel like I'm learning with them. But it's been pretty fantastic, actually, these personal A3s. We've got some process improvement projects that have come out of these, along with just everybody wants to be better and to grow. And so that's what that really supports. Gemba walks. So autopsy for quite a while was kind of on their own in this. And I feel like as MDI boards here at Mayo Clinic really get up and rolling and the DLMP management system gets going, the Gemba walks are going to be huge. And it's going to be that connection with upper leadership so that we can see where we fall in the strategic plan for the department and for our division. And then, of course, for us. So we do talks and we do share with other work units. We definitely share with other leadership as well. We've had some visitors from outside of Mayo. Ohio State University specifically visited in October of 2019. And then, of course, Dr. Karuja's visit on October 5th of 2021. Fozzie, do you want to speak to the Shingo model?
Yes, thank you. And the other thing that we are trying to do at Autopsy is that introduction of Shingo model. So they have 10 guiding principles. And the objective here is that in order to improve our system or in order to improve our processes, in order to get the results that we need, we need to look at our culture. And the culture is a combination of behaviors that we have. So if we see anything, so if we are not getting the results from our system or stream or service line that we have, we need to look at our behaviors, and the behaviors are coming from our systems. So we need to look at our 10 guiding principles. Shingo model has 10 guiding principles. And so we need to go back and look at those guiding principles and see what are these guiding principles that we are not following, because by not following them, there are consequences for that. So we are trying to introduce and follow those guiding principles every time that we see a problem or every time that we see we are not getting the results that we need. Then we go back and look at those and say, okay, I need to look at the perfection. I need to look at my processes. The problem is the process, not my people. So that's what we have in some of the guiding principles that we have. Respect, another guiding principles. If I don't have respect for my staff, then I'm not going to get the results that I'm looking for. So there are 10 guiding principles that I'm trying to introduce.
I think you bring up a good point with that as far as like it's the process, not the people. And one of the things to really keep in mind is that if you have a fair and just culture, then in reality, the thought process should be nobody comes in here to make a mistake. Nobody comes in to make an error. I mean, most of 99% of the time. So when something happens, big or I think small events, it's easy to say, oh yeah, this is how we're going to do it. And oops, I made a mistake. But when it's a larger event, I think sometimes you have to be able to step back and look at the process and bring it to the group and have a very candid discussion about what are the issues that you're seeing in this process. We've had that here where they've been larger events. And if we approach with curiosity and we allow the team to have the conversation and have the discussion, what we end up finding, which we have a couple times, is there's a list of things within the process that have led to the event that actually happened. And so then we focus on the process itself and those pieces in there. So I think that's important. Because it really is us. It's not necessarily people.
And actually, we have the 10 guiding principles here too. At the bottom says respect every individual, lead with humility, seek perfection, focus on process. So these are the guiding principles. And if we don't follow any of each one of them, there are consequences for that.
Any questions?
Thank you. Go ahead,
Before we go through questions, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank our team members and also our our technologies, current and the previous technologies, and also our current supervisor and assistant supervisors, and also previous supervisors, Melanie and Drew, that they have gone through this process and they have supported this lean journey. I wanted to thank those people also. Without them, we couldn't be here at this time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Fozzie and Christina, for your great presentation. At this time, if anyone has any questions, you can submit those through the Q&A icon in Zoom. In the meantime, I might start with a couple of questions that were pre-submitted by people who registered. The first question is asking about some ways to improve efficiency, both short-term and long-term.
Yep. So, I guess in my mind, collect all the feedback from your team. Sometimes it's not going to be fun to hear it. It's going to be challenging, right? Like we all want to do a good job, and sometimes I think, especially in management, it's easy to take some of the comments or the feedback or the concerns personally. But once we step back, we can recognize that it really is just about improving and being better, and everyone can be better. So I would say just open up the floor and listen to your team. We did the value stream map. There's quick wins with it. There are things that don't take long, create an immediate efficiency. So those would be like the short. The long term is just continuing to put the cultural structure in place, like the huddles, where team members can bring things forward and lead these improvement projects with support from their management and their leadership. So for us, that's kind of how we do it. And we always find different things here and there. We can utilize the surveys as well for different wins that might be longer or short term, depending on what that feedback is. But I think it's just having a place where staff feel like they can share in a respectful and constructive and professional way what their concerns are and feel heard. Fozzie, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, in the short term, the tools that we have is Just Do It and PDSA. Those are that's the way that we use those tools to identify opportunities for quick fixes. And then also we use value stream mapping for longer projects to see that how can we improve the overall service delivery or value stream? What are the major steps and modify in order to improve our quality delivery and so on.
Great. Christina, there are a couple in the Q&A box that have been submitted if you want to go ahead and take those, if you can see them.
I think I'll let Fozzie speak to the first one. I was quality. I wasn't the supervisor at the beginning. So the question is, what were the first steps in presenting this to the technologists on the autopsy team?
I mean, the way that we did it was by taking them through that 4-hour introduction to Lean. We talked about, we used the presentation at the same time we were talking about types of waste. We took them through the simulation for the histology. And then at the same time, we were teaching them some of the tools that we have, like 5S, how to reduce our turnaround time, how to organize our workplace, how to reduce our batch size. I mean, we in this case, I mean, for autopsies, we don't have batches, but how can we prevent having enough supplies in the organizing our supply room, organizing the carts, like when we go to, I think Christina can talk about that one too, is they have a cart that is ready for each case before the cases start. So when we go to the autopsy room, they have all the tools, everything that they need is on one place, so they don't have to go and find those. So those are we introduce them to some of the concepts that we have in Lean by going through that education and training. So that's the way we introduce. And then the book clubs that we had.
And it looks like one of the questions in the Q&A, you mentioned that autopsy time was shortened, but I don't recall you mentioning how you achieved that. Question, shortening autopsy time is a challenge in teaching hospitals, so I welcome suggestions.
Oh.
So for us, it was really the value stream mapping, because it wasn't one specific thing. It was multiple improvement projects. When you add them together, the time just kept getting shorter. So the job instruction actually allowed for conversations around standardization of certain processes. So when we have our residents and our interns in, if the techs are showing them something, that job instruction helps show them in a different way, versus each tech kind of doing it their own way. We now have a standard that we set. And then once you know that standard, from there, you can branch out into nuances. It's things like the photography project. So if they're not fussing with the cones and the pictures are coming out consistently high quality, they're taking less time in the room doing images. So it's all of those pieces that add up to shortening that time. So recognize that the time that we started with to the time that we have now was for a span of a few years, not a few months. But the value stream map is really where we began, because it allowed us to understand what were going to be projects that took more time and took more people, and then were the ones that would take not a lot of time but give us a high impact in the outcome. So
can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
And the other thing is that dedication of time to do the problem solving, mapping, having the technologists there in a meeting to map the process, and then identifying the opportunities for improvement and giving the time to come up with ideas for changes, and to be part of this team and to be part of the change, and then dedicated time for them to do problem solving.
Yeah. And I think that's something to keep in mind as well. So even like we do projects now, we have those specialty teams, and sometimes they need time away from the bench if it's an hour every other week or something like that. And we make sure that we have those conversations with them. So if it's noticed, somebody's on a project and we're seeing that it's been a few weeks and they haven't been able to work on anything, we'll actually create time in their schedule that's dedicated, as much as we possibly can. So we try and really support that for them. One of the questions is, do technologists do the autopsies as a team, or are there individual technologists taking 1 to 2 cases? So in our suites, we have 2 technologists. If it's a complete case, we'll have 2 technologists in the room at any given time. So we have 10 technologists. If both rooms are running, then we've got 4 in there. And then if we have a grossing conference going on, we'll have 2 in that. And then that also creates, that lunch schedule so that we can swap people in and out of the rooms to make sure cases continue.
Maybe one more pre-submitted question that we have time for, and that is surrounding how you measure employee satisfaction. If you'd like to talk about that a bit.
Yeah, so Mayo Clinic does staff surveys. So we take those surveys. Something that I think is really interesting, which if you know me at all, I've totally talked to you about this because I find it phenomenal. Our surveys come with the option for them to see the survey results and then give anonymous feedback. And when I offer the anonymous feedback to the group, they'll let that sit out there for weeks without ever putting anything in it. And then go into a room and they will have a very open conversation about everything on the survey, which is fantastic. They don't feel like they have to shy away from topics just because I'm sitting in there. Is great because that's what I want for them, because that's how we get better. So sometimes we'll make a list of the survey stuff, and then we'll actually come back to it every 5 or 6 months to kind of see where we're at and make sure we're staying on track. We do one-on-ones. So we've done stay surveys. We're doing the A3s. When they're training, there's definitely touch points with different management members to make sure that they're on the right track, that they're feeling good, that if there's any concerns we can help with, those are getting taken care of. Um, Autopsy technologists, I think it's important to realize the goal isn't to keep someone forever. So when we hire people, we're hiring off of that hungry, humble, smart. So experience is nice, but those are really the qualities that we're looking for, because they're going to be somebody that comes in and blends well in this culture that we have. So I think it's important to realize when you're hiring people that are really engaged, they're probably ambitious and they're looking to either build their resume, learn a lot of stuff, be involved in a lot of stuff, but they may not stay forever, and that's perfectly fine. The goal is to help people grow. So our technologists have gone on to different career paths. They've gone back to school for different things. Sometimes it's things that we can't offer. So if somebody needs to be able to work from home for their work-life balance, I mean, we can't offer that. And then I think it's also important to recognize that when you do a culture shift like this, some people will be able to shift and some people won't. And so there has to be those expectations based on, like for us, it's based on our rich ties, it's based on our true north. And sometimes people will feel like it's just not the place for them, and that's okay too. But my goal is to help people grow. So the things that they want to be involved in, the things that they want to learn, I feel like it's my job to help facilitate that as much as possible, recognizing that, they may not stay forever. So that's.
Can I add something to that?
Yes.
As Christina mentioned, that when you are talking to your staff and like staff satisfaction and they are offering their ideas, don't take it personally. As part of the servant leadership, you need to listen, to be humble, and your goal is to develop your staff and remove the obstacles. So when they are talking, don't take it personally.
Yep. And that's something that we incorporate like for our interviews as well. We'll ask them like what they're looking to be involved in. And we get different responses, and then it's a candid conversation. So we've had people that have brought things forward that we haven't been able to do in the past that we kind of keep going forward. And so this year in particular, we'll be able to start having them more involved in like potentially more research and education projects, which just haven't been hugely prevalent in the last few years. So that's pretty exciting, but that comes directly from what they're hoping to gain and what they want to do. So, yeah.
Great. Since we are at about the top of the hour, I want to thank you again, Christina and Fozzie, for your presentation, and thanks to all of you for attending today's Leveraging Lessons from the Past webinar on Autopsy Lab Lean Transformation. If your question was not answered during today's session, or if you have additional questions, please include them in your evaluation, and you may reference the link in the chat to access that evaluation now. Laboratory credit is extended for this program, so upon finalizing your evaluation, you will have the option to claim credit and print your certificate. If you registered for this webinar and joined by phone only, please email us at mcleducation@mayo.edu if you do not receive the evaluation. As a reminder, the program was recorded and will be archived on our website in a few weeks. Thank you again and have a great day.
Thank you for participating. Please click the button below to complete the evaluation and obtain credit.